Stretching a pulled hamstring will only make it worse. Think about it. Why would you want to pull on a muscle that's already partially torn? It's only going to tear it more. And here's a perfect example. Look at this rubber band right here. This rubber band has a few little holes in it, a few little tears. If I keep pulling on it, those tears are going to get worse, and eventually it rips. So if a muscle's partially torn, don't tear it more by stretching. In this video, I'm going to share with you the 5 essential strategies that I use to effectively manage hamstring strains and to prevent them from coming back. I'm James O'Brien, doctor of physical therapy and board-certified orthopedic specialist in physical therapy. Since 2009, I've treated thousands of athletes. And let me tell you, I've seen a lot of hamstring strains. Whether you're a weekend warrior, a high-level athlete, or you pretty much do no working out at all, these methods work across the board. And guys, trust me, you're gonna wanna stick around for number 5 because this is the number 1 reason why people re-injure their hamstrings. So let's begin. Kicking it off with number 1, we already went over stop stretching. Guys, I'm gonna say it. I know this might sound controversial, but in my opinion, stretching is totally overrated. All right, when it comes to like performance enhancement, actually getting stronger, you gotta do strength training and you gotta fix your movement patterns. You gotta develop good neuromuscular control. Passive stretching alone won't do that. Sure, stretching can help you become more flexible. If you're just stretching, okay, there's a good chance you're gonna create little micro tears like this right here. And if we just keep pulling on that, eventually it's gonna get bigger and bigger and then it rips, okay? So again, as we mentioned, if something's already torn, it's in a weakened state. The last thing I wanna do is pull on it, tear it even more. Strategy number 2 is the immediate restoration of normal walking mechanics. Okay, and here's why. All right, I give this example often to my patients. Let's pretend I'm a bodybuilder. Obviously I'm not, okay? But if I wanted to get big, strong muscles, I need to lift big, heavy weights. It's the big, heavy weights that are the stimulus for my muscles to grow and get bigger. My body responds to whatever I throw at it. In that case, big, heavy weights, big muscles. When it comes to a hamstring strain, initially, I just want a normal muscle. So the only way I'm going to stimulate my body to make normal, healthy tissue is to move normally. After that strain, the first thing we're likely to do is to limp, like so. But if I continue limping, I'm just gonna make more tissue that's good at limping. Some of that tissue being scar tissue. So here's what scar tissue is like. So let's look at this rubber band here. Let's pretend this knot is scar tissue. Because when things heal, rather than healing nice and aligned like this, fibers, they heal kind of like this, all right? Think of like a scab and how that scab doesn't really stretch very well. Well, this scar tissue here, it doesn't stretch nor contract very well. And in fact, the other areas actually get overstretched. In contrast, the normal portion of this rubber band stretches and contracts normally, as it should. That's the way we want the muscle to be. So as we avoid limping and we start to return to walking more normally, that stimulates the body to heal good, healthy tissue. Additionally, a major problem with limping is it's an abnormal activity. Our body just isn't meant to do it. And it puts unwanted stresses on other areas of our body, like maybe our knee, our hip, our foot, our ankle. Our bodies aren't meant to move like this, okay? So in your effort to protect that hamstring, not only you may be delaying its healing by not giving it the adequate stress that it needs to heal, that stimulus that it needs to heal, but you're also putting unwanted stress on other areas of your body. Now, I realize after any significant injury, it's almost impossible not to limp, okay? I get that. But as quickly as able, we want to avoid it. However, there's a time where you may need things like crutches, all right? So let's say I strained my left hamstring, all right? Let's say I've got 2 pretend crutches. Hello, crutches. Hello, okay? Those crutches are going to move with my left leg with the attempt of not limping, all right? I'm actually putting weight through my leg, using the crutches with that left leg to, again, not limp. If I wanted to have maybe only one crutch, that crutch would go on the opposite side. So if I, again, strain my left hamstring, the crutch would go on the right side, and that crutch would move with my left foot. Bam, okay, like so. And if you want to make those sound effects, bam, that's cool to do, all right? Same thing you could do with a cane as well. Another cool little tip that I found very helpful is after any injury where I felt like I was limping, I would give myself a steady beat, and walking to that steady beat, like 1, 2, 1, 2. Giving myself that steady beat gave symmetry. That is, like, I was spending the same amount of time on each leg, so that got me to walk more normally. So again, like 1, 2, 1, 2, mic, check, 1, 2, and then you can start dancing and you get better even faster. Not only do we need to stop limping, we also actually have to fix our stride. That is, we have to learn how to walk correctly. And to walk correctly, we want to take a short, quick, and narrow stride. So often what happens is people are in the habit of overstriding, where their foot lands excessively in front of them. And the problem with that is as we strike the ground down and forward, now the ground is pushing us up and backwards. Essentially, we're turning on the brakes. And then we have to pull ourselves forward with our hamstring, and we repeat the process. So imagine a car where we're turning in the gas, brakes, gas, brakes. That puts a lot of wear and tear on the vehicle. Well, your hamstring becomes overworked, all right, when we have to brake like this and then we pull ourselves forward, all right? Instead, we want to walk with a shorter stride where our foot lands closer beneath our hips, like here. And then rather than pulling ourselves forward with our hamstrings, we actually propel and drive ourselves forward correctly using our glutes, right here. All right, if you don't believe me, try this little test out. Take your foot in front of you, like this, and you put your hand on your butt and you dig your fingers into your butt. As you drag your leg backwards, you're gonna feel initially how your hamstring engages. And there's not a whole lot of activity in your buttock until you get to about here. Once you get to about here, that's when your butt really begins to fire, and then it continues to fire as you take your leg backwards. And realize, walking isn't about putting your foot in front of you. It's actually about taking your foot behind you, and that's what drives you forward. So by walking correctly, it's going to get you to become more reliant on your buttocks and less reliant on your hamstrings, as we should be. A few other quick pointers to walk correctly to help you naturally engage your glutes more. Don't walk with a wide stance, okay? Keep your legs a little bit more narrow. That's going to help load your glutes better, okay? Keep your toes pointed forward. That will also help load your glutes more. And then lastly, we want to allow for some pelvic rotation and avoid lateral sway. All right, so if I'm going to walk correctly, it looks something like this. And from the side here, like so. Now on this channel, if you go to the playlist section, I've got some pretty extensive videos of how to walk better. You can check that out, but let's keep moving on. And sure, we all walk our own walk in this walk of life. Sometimes talking to a friend on a walkie-talkie on our way to the Chinese walk to eat some delicious Chinese food. Just knowing later on that night, by ourselves, we'll go home and watch a little Walker Texas Ranger. Okay, now we're moving on to strategy number 3, or as my friends in the hood used to say, el treso in the feso. Strategy number 3 is you need to make a strong butt. And I sort of talked a little bit about this with walking. What it comes down to is if you're not using your buttocks, you're going to overutilize your hamstrings. So both your hamstrings and your buttocks are hip extensors. All right, this motion is called hip extension. So if I have weak glutes, I'm going to become over-reliant on my hamstrings to achieve that motion. And as I become over-reliant on them, that's how we strain them. So the real trick, the real secret into addressing a hamstring strain, in my opinion, is to make a stronger butt. So let's show you how to do that. I have 4 big exercises that we're going to be going through to show you how to do that. So the first of 4 buttock exercise is the bridge exercise. And to do this in the best fashion, you'll have a resistance band tied around your legs just above your knees, like I have right here. We want to first bend our knees all the way, all right? Then we want our feet to be a little bit wider than hip width apart with our toes pointed forward. We'll then separate into the band, and from this position, you'll lift your hips up in the air as you squeeze your butt firmly together. Don't overarch your back like this, and to prevent that, you're going to tighten your abs and squeeze your butt. Our goal is to lift through the hips, through hip extension, not lumbar extension or low back extension. So again, squeeze that butt nice and tight, keep those abs a little tight, but go up as high as you can. You should feel a stretch right here as your butt engages. I want my patients to hold it for 1, 2, 3, don't rest, 2, 2, 3, 3, 2, 3, all the way up to 20 repetitions. And notice that I'm keeping the band apart the entire time. So 3-second hold, 20 repetitions. The next exercise is the clam. So when we do the clam, again, we're going to keep the resistance band on. So our knees are bent to about 90 degrees and our feet are a little bit behind our hips. From here, you're going to take your pelvis and tilt it forward. All right, it's almost like you're bringing your lap down towards the ground. That's very important. From this position,
you're going to then separate your knees but keep your feet together. The big error with this exercise is when people let that pelvis roll backwards. No, you need to keep that pelvis forward. And when done correctly, you should feel it working in the side of your butt. Notice I'm not lifting very high, but I'm doing it correctly. Now, I show this exercise to people all the time, and even after showing them, they're still screwing it up. So a great cue to prevent that pelvis from rocking backwards is to push the pelvis forward as you lift up. So push the pelvis forward as you lift up, and then you'll feel that nice contraction in the butt. If you're not feeling it like working the side of your butt here, it's not way in the back, but more on the side of the butt, you could even come up against a wall, push into the wall, or a gray cabinet if you got one. All right, push into it, keep that pelvis forward, and then separate. As you push in, that's going to help activate your glutes by hip extending, and then you might feel it even more. So another great way to do this exercise. Now, for these two exercises, if you don't have a band, all right, that's okay, but it is best if you have one. You could do just the standard bridge, like so, without the band, and you're still going to get plenty of benefit. Or you could do the clam. Now, this is, for most people, this is very easy if you don't have a weight. If you don't have a band. So what I would do is hold a light weight, maybe not that light, like 10, 15 pounds or so, on the side of your thigh, and do it like so, and that'll give you a little bit more resistance. But ideally, you should get one of these loop resistance bands. This is just one that I tied together from a big roll, but you can find online plenty of loop resistance bands out there. All right, so we did the bridge and we did the clam. We got two more for the buttocks. The next is the single leg bridge. So when we do the single leg bridge, we're going to lift one leg up in the air. We're going to bring that knee close to the chest. From here, we're going to lift up and hold. 1, 2, 3. 2, 2, 3. Again, 20 times. Be cautious to, again, not hyperextend your back. Think instead about lifting through the hips. Again, try to squeeze that glute. So now, it's very common with this exercise that people will often get a cramp in their hamstrings. Okay, so to prevent that, a little trick that you could do is take that foot and push it down and forward, almost like you're trying to push your head that way. By pushing down and forward, that's going to help activate your quadriceps, which will help shut off your hamstring some, which will actually get you to use your glutes more. All right, so a nice little trick to prevent that hamstring cramp. All right, if you continue to cramp as you do this, perhaps don't hold it for 3 seconds, but the reality is if you're cramping, that's a sign saying that you're over-reliant on your hamstrings, all the more reason that you should be doing this exercise. So if you're one of those people that's constantly cramping, just go up and down. And then in time, you'll be able to hold it for that full 3 seconds. For all of these exercises, you're going to hold them for 3 seconds, 20 repetitions on both sides. So don't just work the injured side, also work the other side so you stay nice and even, and that'll hopefully prevent a hamstring strain down the road. The last exercise is the side lying leg raise. So when we do the side lying leg raise, we first want to lie on our side. We don't want to be propped up like this because then we're getting, too much of a arch here in our back. So we want to get nice and flat. We also want to make our body nice and long. So right now my feet are being pushed away from my head so my body is as long as possible. Like the clam, we're going to take our lap, our pelvis here, and we're going to roll it forward towards the ground. From here, we're going to tighten our abdomen, we're going to squeeze our buttocks, and we'll lift our leg up and just slightly backwards. And when done correctly, I feel that contraction again in the side of my butt. I hold 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3. Again, 20 repetitions, both sides. The big error with this exercise is when people let that pelvis roll backwards and they come up and forward. That works a muscle in the front here. It doesn't work, the side buttock muscle here that we're really after. So again, you should feel that contraction here. A little trick to ensure that you're going to engage that glute correctly is pop your shoe off, come up next to a wall or, again, another gray cabinet, push your foot into the wall. As you push your foot into the wall, that'll help activate your glute, and then you can slide up the wall and then down. 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3, just like so. The rules are the same, all right? But now we get that little extra oomph by pushing into the wall here. Again, 3-second hold, 20 repetitions, both sides.
And it gives you that booty or that peach. I just learned that because I'm hip and fresh. I've been hanging out with the youth and I'm learning all their hip lingo. So that's cool too. And that brings us to strategy number 4. And strategy number 4 is to strengthen the hamstrings. So let's talk about how muscles work. So there's basically 2 different types of ways where we can strengthen muscles. So the first would be what we call concentric loading. So let's talk about my bicep here, my massive bicep. Don't be intimidated. Don't be jealous. All right. So if I have a weight in my hand, as I'm going up like this is the concentric portion of the exercise. As I'm contracting the muscle, it's also shortening. Then the eccentric portion would be as it's stretching, but I'm controlling the descent. So when it comes to hamstrings, if I'm going to do some type of eccentric type loading, I'm stretching those muscles, okay? Like this. And I can tell you, after a hamstring strain, that's probably just gonna piss it off. Now, a lot of people argue that's exactly what we should be doing to develop good neuromuscular control, and I get that, but early on, I think it's way too aggressive because of what we talked about in strategy number 1 about avoiding stretching. So instead, I really want to focus on the concentric portion of the exercise, where we're just taking that muscle, engaging it in its shortest position. And to do that, we're going to do what I call the hamstring exercise. So to do the hamstring exercise, I'm going to lean into an object. Could be a wall, it could be a chair, it could be a bench, whatever. All right. Instead of being in this like straight plank position, I'm going to bend a little bit at the hips. And if I'm standing on my left leg, my left knee could be slightly bent. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my right thigh, in this case my right thigh, I'm going to take it as far back as possible without arching my back. And to prevent that back from arching, I engage my abs some, and I can even clench that right glute. So this is as far back as I can go. Then from here, I'm going to flex my knee, like so. And this is putting the hamstring in its shortest position. Now notice as I'm flexing my knee, I'm not allowing my thigh to go out to the side, but I'm also not allowing my thigh to go forward. My hamstrings both flex my knee and extend my hip. So when we do the combination of the two, that's putting that hamstring in its shortest position. This is a great way to strengthen it without overstressing it. And for this exercise, I prefer not to hold it. I just go back and forth, and I have my patients do 2 sets of 30 repetitions, of course, both sides.
Now, the reality is some of these exercises may cause some discomfort in the hamstrings. Now, I'm going to say that that's probably okay. If you are more sore after doing the exercises, like you feel worse, or it's like you have severe discomfort while you're doing them, it's too aggressive, it's too soon. However, because we need to bring strength to that area and because it's going to add some level of stress, any of these strengthening exercises may cause a little bit of discomfort, and typically that's fine. But as always, listen to the body. If it feels sketchy, it probably is.
Now that brings us finally to strategy number 5. And really what number 5 is about is preventing a future hamstring strain from happening again. And really it's pretty simple, guys. Take sprinting cautiously. Don't run too fast. The majority of the athletes out there that are straining their hamstrings are doing it while they're sprinting. Now, perhaps they're running with bad form where their foot is leaning out too far in front of them, overutilizing their hamstrings. That could be a factor. Perhaps they have weak buttocks, so they're becoming over-reliant on their hamstrings. That could be a factor. Or perhaps they're just doing too much, right? And their body just can't handle that, so they strain their hamstrings. But the reality is, after any type of injury, the tissue is weakened, and it takes a while for those tissues to get stronger. For example, right, this is a pretty weak band, this red band. All right, red isn't a very strong resistance. If I pull it hard enough, I can actually rip it. If I take this black band, black is even stronger. Even if I pull it as hard as I can, I could probably rip that there. I don't feel like wasting the band, but it takes a lot more effort. If I go to an even stronger band, like this gray one here, it's very hard for me to rip, especially if I double it up. So the reality is, as we get stronger with some of the strengthening exercises, right, our body becomes more resilient, but that takes time, right? It won't happen overnight. So I've had a lot of patients, all right, I send them off. I give them those 5 exercises, right? The 4 buttock exercises and the 1 hamstring exercise. And within 2 weeks, they're feeling great. But I warned them. I said, hey, be very cautious with sprinting. They were feeling so good. What did they do? They sprinted and then they re-injured themselves, or they were just running too quickly. All right, so it's great that they felt better faster, but the reality is it just takes time for those tissues to heal up strong. So be very cautious with running fast and in particular, sprinting. I would encourage you to take a screenshot of the screen, as this provides all of the repetitions and the exercises with quick reference diagrams of the 5 exercises you should be performing for your daily glute and hamstring routine. Got a question? Drop it in the comments section below. I'm usually quite responsive because, as we say in the medical community, if you're not responsive, you're dead. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, man. all right? Or share it or subscribe or whatever. Thanks for watching, guys. See you next time.